In this video, we're going to take a look at the IFS function. It's a variation of the if function that makes it easier for you to check multiple conditions in your if function. The if function by itself allows you to pick either one value or another value to go in the cell depending on whether some logical test is true or whether the logical test is false. And if all you want is to select from one of two things, then the if function is the one that you want. If you want to select from multiple things, the one you probably want is the IFS function. And so we've got a worksheet here. The tab name is conditional formatting. That's not what we're using it for right now, though. But what we want to do is we want to determine a letter grade for George Washington and then copy that all the way down the page. So I want to calculate the letter grade for each one of my students here, and the letter grade, we're going to use A through F. We won't do pluses and minuses, we'll just do 5 grades. And to make it simple, we use 90, 80, 70, and 60 for the cutoffs for A through D. So let's determine the letter grade for George Washington. Let's go to our Formulas tab, and let's go to Logical. This is a logical function, and choose IFS. And the way this works is you provide it with a logical test, something that's either true or false. Usually you get a logical test by using relational operators like greater than, less than, or equal to. And the logical test I want, first I'm going to check to see if it's an A. So the grade is in C2. And I want to know if it is greater than or equal to 90. And if it is, put the letter grade A in there. And notice I'm not typing the quotation marks around the A, but Excel will put those in for me if I'm using the function arguments dialog box. If I'm writing this from scratch and not using the dialog box, then I have to remember to put the quotation marks in myself. So this condition will be tested. If it's true, then an A will go in the cell and nothing else gets looked at in the function. If it's not true, we go on to logical test 2. So in logical test 2, I want to know if it's a B. And if it is, if it's greater than or equal to 80, then it's a B, and I want it to put a B in the cell for me. My next test is if C2 is greater than or equal to 70, and tab, and if it is, then I want to put a C in there and then tab again, and I get a fourth logical test. My fourth logical test is going to be C2 greater than or equal to 60. If that's true, then I get a D. And tab, and it comes up and asks me for logical test number 5. And you've got a choice here. You could do C2 is less than 60, and that would cover all the other numbers that are available for possible averages. However, if you've eliminated all of the other possibilities, then the easy way to do this is just put true in here. Okay? And you notice it appears in caps over on the right side, so that's the value true, it's not the word true. We don't see quotation marks around it. And if a logical test is true, then the following value is the one that'll get put in the cell. So if all of the other previous 4 logical tests were false, then when I get to this one, it's true, and I will put the value in that's in this last box here, which is the letter F. And there is no reason for adding any more possible logical tests because none of them will ever be encountered, because we're going to jump out of the if function right here. We can't get past this. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on OK. And it looks like it's working for George. He's in the 80s, and we've got a B. And now let's just copy that down. Get your fill handle, the skinny black plus sign, and double click. And it should copy that formula all the way down. We had a dark line here above the column. That's why we're getting the borders copied in here. But if we go down and take a look, you know, anything in the 90s should be an A, 60 should be a D, 80 should be a B. Let me see, we got an F in there any place. Here's a number less than 60. And I'm just going to change that real quickly. If I change that to a 60 and hit enter, it should change to a D. If I put 59.9, we're not doing decimals in the rest of them, but that's less than 60. And so we get an F. I'm just going to do Control-Z a couple of times to get back to the original number. And that is the way that the IFS function works. It's a great alternative to using nested ifs. It's much, much easier than using nested ifs. If you want to see how ugly nested ifs are, I've got a video on using nested ifs that you can check out. But that's it for the IFS function.